Adam Peters able to get a 6th-round pick in this upcoming draft for Brian Robinson. Feels like a job well done by the general manager. Danny, whenever the league knows that you're getting rid of a player, shopping someone for trade, and if you can't get a trade done that you're going to cut that player, getting a draft pick becomes hard. But I think two things became pretty clear in this process, right? Number one, Robinson wanted to try to get on the field and carry the football, and when Washington said, I don't know if that's going to happen here, he was okay with being traded. But number two, if you're the Commanders and you know that this is headed for divorce, you want to get something for him, they were willing enough to take on money from the $3 million he's owed. They're going to pay him a good chunk of his salary just to get a draft pick back. So I kind of view this as, you're going to cut Robinson, we'll pay a couple $1 million for a 6th-round pick. We're fine with doing that as a team trying to build, and they move him out to San Francisco.
Yeah, it tells me there might have been a little bit of demand. I mean, I put demand in quotation marks. This isn't, multiple teams bidding first-rounders or something to that effect. It's obviously, you set the stage very well. This is someone that was going to be off the roster or traded to, quote-unquote, the highest bidder. My guess, just, listening to some smart people talk about this, was this felt like one of those pick swaps. Like, you give us a 6th, you give us a 7th, we'll give you a 6th and sort of call it a day, right? Like a difference of 15, 20 slots, and we'll take on the player. But I think you said it. Like, he fits in. Maybe he's the backup. Maybe he's the goal line guy, or maybe he's a short yardage guy spelling Christian McCaffrey. Maybe moves ahead of Isaac Guerrero on your fantasy depth chart or whatever. But you pay the premium there. In other words, some cap space that you can afford to give up to make sure you get that draft pick back, and it's another bite at the apple. It's a 6th-rounder. Nobody's telling you that a surefire Hall of Famer. For every Tom Brady, there's 77,000 guys that are not on rosters, but Kane Madrano's a 6th-rounder. Maybe he's a special teamer. Maybe it's a way to kind of, fill out your roster. It's throwing a dart, trying to find another crack at it for some cheap fill-ins here as this culture gets built and they need more and more picks as they've assembled so many veterans. To me, it's a winning move. That is a really good move.
When you're cut a guy and you can get a draft pick
and you
for
get
it,
something back. Yep.
It's a slam dunk. And by the way, a 7th-round pick would have felt that way.
Yeah.
Even if the 49ers are a Super Bowl caliber team and they plan on being a power in the NFC, they think they can make a deep run, which means all of their picks will be at the very back end of each round. So what? So a 6th becomes effectively an early 7th. A 7th is essentially an undrafted free agent. They have injury issues every single year. They have these years where they bottom out. There's some questions about the 49ers after losing Deebo Samuel. Brandon Ayuk is hurt. Christian McCaffrey is a guy that's really difficult and complicated to keep healthy, I would say. So, more is going to be on Brock Purdy's plate. We don't know exactly what the 49ers are going to be this year. But getting a pick back is the win when the secret is out. They did as good a job as they could. None of us knew 10 days ago, 7 days ago, that they were completely done with Brian Robinson. That's a huge deal. And around here, that has not been something front offices have done for years. When they hated a player, you knew it. And they did a really bad job at building up value. I don't necessarily think that they wanted nothing to do with Brian Robinson, but it is very obvious they liked Rodriguez more. They think Krosky Merritt will help them more. They were kind of getting out of and done with B-Rob. You didn't know it. This is what grown-ups do. This is what real general managers do. It leaks because the agent or someone around the league lets a reporter know, hey, do you know Washington's calling people trying to trade Brian Robinson? So you're not going to be able to keep a secret in perpetuity. I get that. But to your point, getting the draft pick back, when you think about it from San Francisco's perspective, tells you that other teams wanted him. We've heard the Browns were interested. The Saints have apparently been calling on running backs this week. The Dolphins were linked to Brian Robinson. I don't know if that was authentic or not. It wasn't from a reputable reporter, but it makes some sense to me. So I'll bet you there were 3 or 4 teams Washington was talking to, and if you're the Niners, you go, we're low enough in the waiver wire. If we want this guy as insurance for McCaffrey, let's just give up a late-round pick and get him. And for B-Rob, what a landing spot.
Yeah.
Shanahan running scheme. McCaffrey never plays a full season. Team that might compete for an NFC championship game appearance. He could have ended up in Cleveland or New Orleans, man. This is a huge win for him.
It certainly is. And I think Miami would have been a decent destination as well. Mike McDaniel can coordinate him some running games, and Devin Achane's already banged up, just to your point. But, yeah, I would say that's a good landing spot. And people would look at that and go, what are you talking about? Christian McCaffrey's the bell cow. He is. They're going to go.
Until?
Exactly. They're going to go as long as Christian McCaffrey can give you Christian McCaffrey. So they're going to be judicious with how they utilize him, right? I mean, this is someone that seems constantly banged up, and the offense suffers. I mean, the days of Elijah Mitchell or whoever's next up automatically being plugged in and getting 200 total yards because Kyle Shanahan's a genius, it may be behind you at this stage. So maybe McCaffrey turns into more of a 15 to 16 touch per game guy instead of 20 to 25. And even still there'll be games that he misses, et cetera. Brian Robinson went to a good place. The totals, I think, will be good. Again, playing in that effective of an offense, even though they can't find a receiver to stay healthy for more than an hour and a half, it seems like they're in San Francisco. But, yeah, I mean, there aren't many better offensive minds in this league. And if he wants you, that probably means there's good reason for it. What's your over-under totals for him in terms of rushing attempts? I thought right at 110 to 120, somewhere in there.
See, I think it's impossible because it's so different with or without healthy McCaffrey. If McCaffrey is healthy, he's a three-down back that really doesn't come off the field when they're cooking. Inevitably, though, he's going to miss time, and then I think B-Rob actually will get a bunch of carries. So I think it's very possible he gets over 100, probably less than 150 attempts. But they'll play him for sure. Mm-hmm. And then, let's face it, I mean, if Christian McCaffrey goes down, Robinson's like a fantasy stalwart.
Yep.
I mean, this is a 16, 17, 18 carry a game guy who's going to get goal line touches probably. Now, what's he going to do with those? I think it's probably still 60 to 80 yards. I think it's still 3.5, 4, and kind of, plodding, physical, bruising back. He's going to hit a lot of singles with those carries. That is what Washington is trying to avoid. That's the game they're trying to get out of, I think. They want explosiveness. They want some open field wiggle. They're looking for playmaking, and they are going to give Krosky Merritt an opportunity to become that guy. I also think just in the way of what Brian Robinson does, they feel like Chris Rodriguez can give them a little bit more. Have you seen any of the data on the speed that he was clocked at on his carry in the preseason against Cincinnati?
No.
So he had the 40-yard run, and he clocked at a time that was faster than anything he ran last year, which has apparently also been the case at practice with the chip data that they have. All these guys wear these, what are they called, stat score or something? It looks like training bras or something
right.
that they walk off the field with. And it's basically allows the team to really have all the information that they want on these players. But he's faster. He has lost weight. He is more slender. I think a big part of this that we haven't talked about while everyone's been throwing the Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt party, understandably, is they're fired up about Chris Rodriguez. They love what they saw all offseason from a guy who flashed last year. We'd be remiss, though, real quick, Danny, if we did not talk B-Rob for a second. This guy's done nothing wrong at any point.
This is the point I was going to bring up.
There is a little bit of vitriol, it feels like. I don't want to say celebrating, but there is a little bit of venom or hostility or something that I feel like, good riddance, see you later. What did he do wrong exactly? This is a guy as a rookie who immediately became a starting caliber player, overcame, by the way, being shot in the knee while trying to pick up takeout in Washington, D.C. as the victim of a violent crime, comes back 4 weeks later, runs out of the tunnel to 50 Cent Many Men. It was one of the coolest scenes ever with the smoke all around him. He was a fan favorite. Now, since then, I think we've got enough data to say this is a very average NFL running back who was taken in the third round. But he's been a good soldier. He has run really hard. He has put together some huge plays and some big touchdowns for this team. I wish him all the best. I think he's been a pretty model citizen from what I can tell. Obviously, his marriage with the team soured extensively. Seems to me like he did not take this news well over the last several days. Because to go from on the team getting first-team reps to basically not a part of the team and my head coach is having to address my teammates to say I won't be around anymore, that sounds like something went sideways.
Tells you something, yeah.
Something was not good when they made the announcement to him. But he's not the first guy to take this poorly if that's what happened.
For sure. And again, this is, as you and I have gone back and forth and talked to so many invested fans and listeners and Twitter fighters or whatever about the Terry McLaurin situation, it's why one of my axioms is I do not blame anybody for trying to get as much or more in contract stuff. I don't. I will never be mad at someone that says I need to try to get more. Now, where I do get mad is when it's time to play football and you're not doing that. There's a push and pull there. But in terms of that, again, the example I always used to use was Marcus Washington. All he was effective until he wasn't, and they said, thanks, bye. Same thing here.
Tough league.
A physical downhill bruising runner was physical downhill and bruising, took on a lot of contact, got injured a little bit, may not be the fastest anymore. So they said, thanks. We got a bunch of much cheaper, younger players we're going to go with. And I'm criticizing the team at all. Because the point is to do the best 53 you can and try to win as many games as possible and get to a Super Bowl. So while I think it's a certainly defensible and even correct decision to a degree to not make him the feature back, and then if he didn't take that well, by all means move on from him. But it's a reminder, as you said, how ruthless and fast this league goes. And if he slipped in public or whatever, had some kind of injury and he couldn't play, the games still are going on. They're still going to take place with or without you. And it's always a reminder of how harsh and unforgiving this league is on all fronts. So, yeah, I don't begrudge a player trying to get more when they can, and B, don't fault the team at all for making the team better today.
Well, I have zero issue with trading Brian Robinson. I would have had no issue with releasing Brian Robinson and getting a 6th-round pick, knowing that he's on his way out is value and is a win as far as I'm concerned. They've got a deep room. It's not a quality, star-laden room. It's a quantity room. Think big league rotation with 4th starters, basically. Austin Eckler in his role, if he's healthy, is an above-average piece as a pass-catching back. We had a lot of questions last year. I think a lot of us in this fan base did. How much does he have left? Can he still be elusive? Can he still make people miss? Yes, yes, and yes. Now, I guess he's a year older, and you can have some of those questions again. But I saw enough to feel really good about Eckler and his role. I wouldn't add a ton of work on 1st and 2nd down if I could avoid it from a durability and age standpoint. But in his 3rd down, 2-minute, 4-minute, passing at the end of the half, getting up the field, getting out of bounds, burning some timeouts role, I think he's going to be very effective. Then you draft Krosky Merritt in the 7th. They think he's a 3rd or 4th round talent. If Krosky Merritt was a 3rd rounder, would anyone have batted an eye about any of this?
No.
Right? Everyone's going, was the Bill, 7th round pick? They didn't think he was a 7th round pick. I've mentioned Rodriguez, and then at the back of the depth chart, I know that there's a Jeremy Nichols in a lot of buildings, that a guy like a Demetric Felton, who doesn't have a carry in the league the last couple of years, or even a Kaz Allen, who's a prospect who's been around for years now as an undrafted free agent. Those types of guys are everywhere, but they feel okay about having a couple of them on the practice squad and still having 5 or 6 backs that they trust in their building. So this, to me, is a perfectly reasonable thing that they're doing. I know some are viewing it as a bit of a risk. That's only because you haven't seen Krosky Merritt do it. It's only because you are a Rodriguez injury away from struggling with some depth. And if that were to happen, they'd have some tough questions to answer. But I think that there's probably more to this than we know behind the scenes, and they're going to be classier than a lot of the previous regimes where we'd find out about those things, where I'm not saying he was a bad guy or anything, but he wasn't their guy. And as the year went on last year, you heard Chris Russell, some other people mention, they were having meetings, they were talking to him about how they wanted him to run and what he needed to do differently. This always made sense to me that they were going to go in a different direction at running back. The reason we kind of moved on was because they had an offseason to do it, and they didn't. And you and I remember talking as they were getting ready for minicamp. We're like, really? They didn't draft the guy in the first 6 rounds. They didn't sign a notable free agent. I guess they're Team B-Rob. We didn't think they were. We just then assumed they had to be if that was their offseason. But when you actually look at it now, Krosky Merritt, based on how he's performed, they never really viewed as just some 7th-round type player. Mm-hmm. And, Rodriguez, we thought they viewed as like a roster bubble guy. They viewed more as B-Rob Light, just another version of him. So no problem with what they did. Surprised they got a 6th, but obviously they're paying for it. They're literally paying salary to B-Rob to make sure that pick comes back.
And again, that type of stuff to me, I know goes hidden under the radar. And the 6th-round pick that they get next year, in all likelihood, doesn't turn into anything. But that's not the point. The point is it's a process deal. That's why you hoard cap space. That's why you try to make smart deals. That's why you try not to overpay, whenever possible. You can kind of keep your powder dry for moments like that where you're literally buying a draft pick. I mean, that's really what it is for a guy that you were going to cut that isn't part of your plan. You could spend a little bit of cash against the cap, which you have a cushion to do, where now you can buy that draft pick, a bite at the apple. He may turn into a star, that 6th-rounder, may turn into a special teamer, may turn into someone that we never think about ever again after he was drafted. Doesn't matter the process part. You just keep doing the right thing enough times in a row, you stack enough of those right things, right decisions, become right days, become right weeks, months, years, you got yourself a good organization. They are well on their way to doing that. I thought that was a really savvy, smart move they were able to pull off today.